Have you ever wondered if there's a simple practice that could completely shift the way you live your life, even after 50? At 55, I discovered something unexpected, an AI-guided meditation that changed everything. It wasn't just about sitting quietly. It transformed my awareness, my presence, and even my relationships. In this video, I'll share this journey, the insights I gained, and how it connects deeply with Ram Dass's teachings on love, presence, and compassion. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment that completely changed your perspective? Comment below. I'm excited to read your story. I remember the first time I encountered AI-guided meditation. I was 55, and there was this mix of curiosity and hesitation swirling in my mind. On one hand, I had spent decades exploring meditation, prayer, and different spiritual practices. I had read books, attended workshops, and tried countless techniques. And yet, there was this subtle restlessness in me, a quiet whisper that said, maybe there's something more, something you haven't yet explored. The idea of using artificial intelligence for meditation felt strange at first. It sounded futuristic, almost mechanical, and I couldn't help but wonder if it could really touch the heart or quiet the mind the way traditional practices had. There was a part of me, the skeptic, that said, this is just another tech gimmick. What could a machine possibly teach me about presence, love, or inner peace? Yet another part, quieter but persistent, was intrigued. What if this could help you focus, deepen your practice, or simply remind you to be present in ways you hadn't yet discovered? That evening, after a particularly stressful day, I decided to give it a try. The day had been long, filled with routine challenges, the endless meetings, minor conflicts, and that gnawing feeling of monotony that so often creeps in as we age. It was the kind of day where every task felt like a weight, and even familiar activities felt muted. I wanted a shift, even a small one, and I thought, why not see what this AI meditation could do? I settled into my chair, closed my eyes, and began the session. The voice, calm and steady, guided me gently through breathing exercises, reminders to notice sensations, and prompts to observe my thoughts without judgment. At first, my mind resisted. I noticed all the usual chatter, my to-do list, old regrets and random memories, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to change. A small sense of calm emerged. It wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks or sudden epiphanies. Instead, there was a quiet clarity, a subtle shift that made me feel lighter even for a moment. Ram Dass's wisdom came to mind. We're all learning to be present in every moment. It felt like the AI meditation wasn't trying to give me enlightenment or solve my problems. It was simply reminding me, step by step, to notice the present moment, the rise and fall of my breath, the sensations in my body, the gentle rhythm of thought and stillness. In that simplicity, there was a gentle teaching. Transformation isn't always spectacular, it's subtle. It happens gradually, often invisible to our eyes at first. Over the next few sessions, I began to notice tiny changes that felt almost magical in their subtlety. I found myself approaching ordinary moments with more attention. When I walked down the street, I noticed the textures of the pavement, the way the sunlight hit the leaves, the quiet hum of life around me. Conversations with friends and colleagues became opportunities for presence rather than just tasks to navigate. Even moments of frustration or discomfort seemed lighter because I was learning to observe them rather than be consumed by them. I realized that the AI meditation was not a replacement for human experience or traditional spiritual practices. It was a tool, a gentle guide, helping me return again and again to the essential practice of noticing, breathing, and being. In a way, it mirrored Ram Dass's teaching that life itself is the meditation. We don't need to escape it. We need to be present in it. At first, the changes were almost imperceptible, but over weeks, I could feel a quiet joy growing, a simple, gentle happiness that had nothing to do with external achievements. It was a joy born of awareness, presence, and acceptance. I realized that transformation is not always loud. It is often a soft unfolding, a gradual reawakening to the beauty and sacredness of ordinary life. Now, looking back, I understand that what drew me to AI-guided meditation wasn't technology or novelty. It was the reminder that, even at 55, there is always room to learn, to awaken, and to deepen our connection with life. The AI became a companion in practice, a patient guide, encouraging me to return to the moment again and again, and in doing so, to discover the profound depth of ordinary life. If you are watching this, perhaps you too feel the pull towards something new, something transformative. Remember, it is never too late to explore, to awaken, to deepen your presence. Transformation often begins in small, quiet steps, the kind that the mind barely notices at first. And yet, over time, these steps create a profound shift, a gentle opening of the heart, and a reminder of the simple truth that we are always learning to be present in every moment. The first time I truly sat with an AI-guided meditation, I wasn't expecting much. At 55, my days had become a familiar rhythm of routines, obligations, and subtle anxiety. Life had a way of moving fast, even when I tried to slow down. Yet, as the gentle voice of the meditation began to guide me, something shifted. Time seemed to stretch, as if each second had room to breathe. Thoughts that usually crowded my mind, lists, worries, regrets, softened. Clarity emerged, not as a forceful command, but as a quiet invitation. It reminded me of Ram Dass's words, "We're all just walking each other home." In that moment I felt it, not as a concept to be pondered intellectually, but as a lived experience. There was an openness, a sense of connection, not only to the meditation itself, but to life outside the room, beyond the clock, beyond the roles and labels I had carried for decades. Emotions rose gently, some releasing with unexpected ease, some lingering with tender curiosity. I realized I'd been holding on to subtle tensions, the need to perform, the fear of not doing enough, the quiet ache of unspoken regrets. In those first sessions, I felt a soft letting go, a willingness to simply be. What surprised me most was how the meditation began to spill into ordinary life. Walking to the mailbox, the cool breeze brushing my face, became a practice in awareness. Drinking my morning coffee wasn't just a routine, it became a ritual, an opportunity to savor warmth, aroma, and presence. Conversations with friends carried a new depth. Instead of mentally planning my next words or worrying about impressions, I noticed the pauses, the smiles, the subtle shifts in tone, and realized I was truly listening. Even the simplest moments, guided gently by subtle AI prompts, became invitations to reconnect with the present and with compassion. The AI didn't force enlightenment, it didn't promise sudden transformation. What it offered was guidance, soft reminders to pause, to breathe, to notice. Sometimes it was a suggestion to focus on a breath, sometimes a quiet reflection on gratitude, sometimes a nudge toward observing a recurring thought without judgment. And in its gentle, consistent presence, I began to recognize patterns in my mind that had gone unnoticed for years. I saw how impatience arose not from the world, but from my own untrained reactions. I noticed moments of judgment that were habits, not truths. Slowly, those moments transformed. Awareness bred choice, and choice brought peace. The more I practiced, the more ordinary life seemed to glow with subtle beauty. A walk in nature was no longer just exercise. It became a dialogue with the trees, the wind, and the rhythm of life itself. Morning sunlight on the kitchen counter became a reminder of impermanence, a chance to appreciate the fleeting moments that make life rich. Even small challenges, an unexpected traffic jam, a tense conversation, a frustrating email, became opportunities to practice presence, patience, and compassion. Over weeks, a pattern emerged. I started noticing small shifts in myself. A pause before reacting, a softer tone in conversation, a curious approach to discomfort rather than avoidance. Each insight felt like a breadcrumb leading me home. I began to recognize that the meditation wasn't just something I did while sitting with closed eyes. It was a living practice, an art of returning to presence in every moment, guided by the gentle whispers of both the AI and the wisdom of Ram Dass. And perhaps the most profound realization of all, age doesn't limit transformation. At 55, I found myself opening to experiences I had once dismissed as fleeting or trivial. I felt the truth in Ram Dass's guidance that we are all, in essence, companions on this journey. The meditation, AI-assisted or not, became a mirror, showing me that presence, compassion, and connection are not goals to achieve. They are moments to inhabit. Life began to change, subtly but unmistakably. It wasn't a sudden flood of bliss or an escape from challenges. It was the quiet deepening of attention, the awakening to the richness in the ordinary, the unfolding of an internal rhythm aligned with the present. Each breath became a reminder. I am here. Each encounter, each task, each silence became a canvas for awareness. The AI had sparked the journey, but the transformation lived in the choices I made every day. In every ordinary miracle I allowed myself to notice. And so, the days unfolded differently. I walked more slowly, listened more deeply, and smiled more freely. I noticed the laughter of a stranger, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of a friend's presence. And in those moments, I felt it again. We're all walking each other home. Not in theory, but in life, step by step, breath by breath, connection by connection. The meditation had changed my life, not by altering reality, but by opening me to the reality that was always there. The present moment, alive and luminous, waiting to be embraced. At 55, I found myself confronting something I had carefully avoided for years, my own inner barriers. For so long, I had kept busy, distracted, and focused outward. Work, family, responsibilities, even spiritual seeking, these became ways to keep certain emotions buried deep within. Yet when I began practicing meditation with the help of AI guidance, something unexpected began to happen. In the stillness, all that I had tried to outrun finally rose to the surface. Fear, doubts, anger, regrets, all came forward, as if waiting patiently for me to finally notice them. At first, it felt overwhelming. I questioned whether I was doing it wrong, whether I was failing at meditation. But then came a subtle reminder, echoing Ram Dass's timeless wisdom: acceptance of self is the first step to presence. Those words became like an anchor. I realized the purpose was not to silence or escape these feelings, but to see them, fully, honestly, without judgment. The AI meditation offered gentle prompts, almost like a compassionate friend whispering reminders: breathe into what you feel. Allow it to be here. And slowly, I began to see fear not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Doubt not as proof of weakness, but as an invitation to trust. Anger as energy that had been locked away. Regrets as memories asking for forgiveness. For the first time in my life, I began to embrace vulnerability, not as a failure, but as a doorway. At 55, that shift felt profound, because society often tells us that as we grow older, we should already have everything figured out, that by now we should be strong, certain, unshakable. But the truth is, life continues to surprise us. New challenges emerge, old wounds resurface, and the real strength lies not in pretending they aren't there, but in facing them with compassion. Meditation became the space where I could sit with myself without running away. I discovered that fear loses its grip when I stop resisting it. Doubt softens when I offer it patience. Regret begins to heal when I hold it with kindness. And in those moments, something deeper awakens, a resilience that is not based on control, but on surrender. Ram Dass often spoke of presence as a practice of love, and in learning to accept my own humanity, with all its flaws and contradictions, I began to experience what that meant. I was no longer carrying the heavy burden of who I thought I should be. I was learning to rest in who I already am. That is where true peace begins. Another realization surfaced during these meditations: the awareness of time. At this stage of life, time feels more precious. I often found myself asking, how much time is left? Have I lived with purpose? Have I done enough? Those questions carried weight, but meditation helped me see them differently. Instead of measuring my life by achievements or external expectations, I started to ask, am I present right now? Am I living this very moment with awareness and love? That shift was liberating. Releasing the attachment to external standards, whether success, recognition, or even approval, opened a new sense of freedom. I no longer needed to prove my worth to the world. I no longer needed to cling to the story of how things should have been. In that letting go, I found space. Space for peace, space for joy, space for being. And with that space came a surprising gift: resilience. Not the kind of resilience that fights and pushes through, but the kind that bends with life, like a tree in the wind. It is the resilience that comes from trust. The trust that I can face whatever arises, not by controlling it, but by staying present with it. To anyone listening who has reached their 50s or beyond, I want to share this truth. It is never too late to embrace your own vulnerability. It is never too late to meet yourself with compassion. In fact, these later chapters of life hold a special kind of beauty. We carry wisdom earned from experience, yet we are still capable of transformation. We can still grow, we can still soften, we can still awaken to deeper truths. Meditation, whether guided by AI or by the gentle voice of a teacher, becomes a mirror. It shows us what we've hidden, but it also shows us the light that has always been there. And when we choose to face our fears, to release our regrets, to accept our imperfections, we step into a freedom that no one can take from us. Ram Dass reminded us, we're all just walking each other home. And perhaps that home is not somewhere far away, but right here, in the present moment. It is the home we discover when we finally sit with ourselves in love. So if you are listening now, I invite you to take a breath, feel your body, notice your heart. Whatever rises, fear, doubt, anger, regret, allow it to be here without judgment. Then gently whisper to yourself, I am enough, I am here, I am present. This is the gift of breaking inner barriers. This is the gift of embracing vulnerability. And this is the beginning of true inner freedom, at 55 or at any age.